Today, we're going on an incredible journey. We're heading out to one of the most powerful and, honestly, most dangerous places on the planet, an offshore oil platform. We're going to follow the lifeblood of our economy, crude oil, from thousands of meters below the seabed all the way into the belly of a giant supertanker.
I mean, really think about it for a second. The fuel that gets you around, the plastic that makes up your phone, even parts of the medicines that keep us healthy, it all starts right here, in the middle of the ocean. But how does it get from a hidden reservoir deep inside the Earth into our daily lives? Well, the whole process is way more complex, more dangerous, and frankly, more incredible than you can probably imagine.
All right, so let's get into it. We're going to break this whole engineering marvel down into 5 key stages. First, we'll look at the platform itself, what I'm calling the ocean fortress. Then we'll take the deep dive to actually get the oil. After that, we'll see how it's all cleaned up in the from mixed to pure stage. Next up, we'll explore the massive storage solution, the floating tank. And finally, we'll witness the final handover to a supertanker. So first things first, the platform. And look, these aren't just structures. They're basically self-contained cities floating in some of the most hostile environments you can find on this planet. This is where hundreds of people live and work around the clock for months at a time. And it turns out there's not just one size fits all here. Engineers have come up with a few different solutions for different ocean depths and conditions. You've got your fixed platforms, which are literally anchored right to the seabed in shallower waters. Then there are floating platforms, which are held in place by these huge, heavy-duty anchor systems. And finally, you have the FPSO. That stands for Floating Production, Storage, and Offloading Vessel, which is like the all-in-one superstar that can do it all.
The scale of these things is just staggering. A large platform can rise up to 600 feet. To give you an idea of what that looks like, it's more than double the height of the historic Qutub Minar in Delhi. We are literally talking about a skyscraper, built to function in the middle of the ocean.
And they need to be that massive for a very good reason. They are built to withstand waves up to 30 meters high. That's nearly 100 feet. Just try to picture a wall of water as tall as a 10-story building crashing into you. It's unbelievable. In fact, these platforms are engineered to survive the absolute worst that Mother Nature can dish out, and that includes taking a direct hit from a Category 5 hurricane. It's all thanks to some incredible engineering, either using foundations drilled hundreds of feet into the seabed or flexible mooring systems that let the whole platform ride out the storm.
Okay, so we have our fortress. Now, how do we actually get the oil? This is where we start the deep dive, drilling thousands of meters through water, then rock, then ancient layers of the earth to get to the prize.
So the whole thing starts with a rotary drill bit, which is often tipped with industrial diamonds to chew through solid rock. All the power for this comes from the derrick. That's the tall tower you see on every rig. As it's drilling, a special fluid called drilling mud is pumped down the hole. Now, it's not actually mud, it's a complex chemical mix that does a few crucial jobs. It cools the drill bit, lubricates everything, and, most importantly, it controls the immense pressure coming from below. This goes on for up to 5,000 meters until finally it hits the oil. Now, hitting that oil reservoir is extremely dangerous. There's a huge risk of what's called a blowout, where high-pressure oil and gas just erupt uncontrollably. To stop that, every single well has a blowout preventer, or BOP. This thing is the ultimate failsafe, a multi-ton stack of high-pressure valves so powerful they can actually slice through the steel drill pipe to seal the well in an emergency.
And the stakes here could not be higher. In 2010, it was the catastrophic failure of a BOP that led to the Deepwater Horizon disaster. It's a really chilling reminder of the immense risks involved and exactly why this one piece of equipment is so absolutely critical. So, we've reached the oil. Success! But the stuff that comes surging up the pipe isn't the pure black gold you're probably picturing. Nope, it's a messy, totally unusable mixture. And that brings us to our third stage, the Great Separation. What actually comes out of the well is this raw gunk. You've got crude oil, sure, but you also have natural gas, salt water, sand, and a bunch of other chemicals mixed in. The valuable crude oil is actually less than half of what they pull up, so all of this has to be separated right there on the platform. So, how do they do it? With a really clever piece of kit called a 3-phase separator. Basically, the whole mixture gets pumped into a big pressurized drum, and inside, simple physics just takes over. Gas, being the lightest, floats to the top. Water, the heaviest, sinks to the bottom. And right there in the middle, that's our prize, the crude oil, which is then ready to be piped out.
After all this filtering and separating, a single, medium-sized platform can produce up to 200,000 barrels of pure crude oil every single day. That is an enormous amount of energy being processed right there in the middle of the sea.
Okay, so we've got pure crude oil. Awesome. But we're miles from shore. Where in the world do you store millions of barrels of oil until a tanker can show up to collect it? Well, that brings us to our fourth section, the floating tank.
And this is the main job of that FPSO we mentioned earlier. It basically acts as a gigantic floating warehouse parked right next to the production platform. It collects and stores all that processed oil, keeping it safe until it's ready for the next big step.
And when I say gigantic, I am not exaggerating. A large FPSO can be up to 330 meters long. That is the length of 3 football fields laid end to end. It's a floating industrial park on a scale that's hard to even wrap your head around.
All that space allows it to hold a truly staggering amount of oil. A single FPSO can store up to 2.5 million barrels of crude. It's a vital link in this incredibly complex logistical chain.
And now, for the grand finale of our story. The FPSO is full, and a tiny dot appears on the horizon. It's time for the final high-stakes handover, a billion-dollar transaction that happens right there on the open ocean.
Docking a ship the size of a small neighborhood next to a floating oil facility is, as you can imagine, not a quick process. We're talking about a very large crude carrier here. The whole maneuver can take up to 6 hours. Specialized pilots come on board to manage the approach. Every gust of wind and every ocean current has to be calculated. Then, massive steel ropes secure the 2 vessels together. There is absolutely zero room for error. Once they're connected, the transfer begins, and the speed is just mind-boggling. Huge 5,000 horsepower pumps start pushing the oil from the FPSO to the tanker at a rate of 8 million liters per hour. It's an epic moment, the final payoff for all that incredible work. And as that tanker fills up, it's worth taking a moment to remember that this entire massive operation, from the engineering to the drilling to this final transfer, is all run by people. Thousands of workers who spend months away from their families working day and night in one of the toughest jobs on Earth, all to keep our world moving.
So as that tanker sails off toward the horizon, its precious cargo is on its way to a refinery. And from there, it's going to be transformed into the fuel, the plastics, and the countless other products that we all use every single day. So as this one journey ends, another one is just beginning. What part of your world will this oil become?